As Polly mentioned, I project manage something called Innovate Succeed. I'll explain a wee bit more about that as we go on, but really what I'm trying to do is I think if any of you were coming here to try and get answers, I probably don't have them, but I'm going to try and stimulate a bit of thinking about what innovation is, why introducing new products and services or continually thinking about what it is that you do might be important to you. Look at how you can build your business to capitalize on this, and touch on some of the support that's available. A little bit about me to begin with. I have had a bit of a varied career. I started straight out of university helping build these. For those of you that are techie and interested, it was the world's first portable field 10 gigabit optical network tester. Exciting, huh? Essentially, it was groundbreaking, ahead of its time. No one else was doing it until the telecoms industry decided they'd put a whole heap of lower grade optical fiber in the ground, and they might just go and use that instead of going to faster and faster networks. So it was a bit of a challenge. Essentially, my role in this was helping translate things that designers had come up with, prototypes, into something that can actually be made and sold. So everything from what does it do, how do you test it, all the way through the supply chain. I then went to New Zealand and made these, or not these, a version of these in China. So again, working out how customers or how the designers made stuff or wanted to make stuff, and then designing the processes and shipping it all over to China to be made with its associated issues. Next, a somewhat odd diversion into what was technically leadership development, but in reality was social innovation, working with public, private, and not-for-profit companies to actually look at how they can work together and bring new services to the market being cities and regions as a whole. And finally, a little bit more technical, working for an oil and gas technology funder, helping SMEs put together technology development projects and get funding from corporates. In theory, this was a technology job and understanding the technology challenges. In practice, this was helping SMEs translate what they wanted to do into a business case for a large multinational. So, and since then, I've been doing this. Innovate to Succeed, and I'll come on to more of the nuts and bolts. Essentially, it's a coaching program. It's intensive, it's bespoke, and it's designed to help businesses that are developing new products or services, want to develop new products and services, want to enter markets with their existing products and services, to do that. Up to 7 days worth of support, and really designed to help businesses build their capacity in order to grow, do new things. We're funded by these guys, European Regional Development Fund, but importantly, Innovate UK. For those of you that don't know Innovate UK, it's the UK's innovation agency, charged with a number of things, including setting the UK's strategy and innovation strategy, giving funding to companies to develop new technologies, but also a key part of what we do in both Innovate to Succeed and Enterprise Europe Network is supporting companies to build their capacity and to build the UK's SME capacity to develop new products and services to keep the UK's industry ahead. So, and yeah, we're part of the whole Innovate UK family. We come under the Enterprise Europe Network bit, and as I say, it's about capacity, capability, being a regional focus, and helping you find partners. So there's a lot of support out there. So, Last little bit of just general blurb. I work for a company called Business West. We run Innovate to Succeed in the Southwest on behalf of Innovate UK. And essentially that's what we're here to do. We're a business-led organisation. We're here to support business in anything from exporting to building your capacity, or if you have a new business idea, starting up and growing. So, again, one of my usual questions to the room, and I suppose I should say at this point, if anyone's got any burning issues or burning questions or anything, just shout, or we can take them at the end. But a question to you guys, and no answering from Paul because he knows the answer to this one. What is innovation?
Doing something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for us, we tend to use the bottom description. Doing something different, doing something in a different way in order to create value for the customer. It doesn't have to be brand new. We're working with a company, a brewery down in Wiltshire, who is diversifying into bottled water. The product itself isn't rocket science. It's bottled water. Loads of people sell bottled water, but for the company, it's a massive diversification into a new product line, into a new market that they've not been into before. So it doesn't have to be brand new to the world, but it has to be new to you, and something that perhaps you've not done before. And importantly, it's in order to create value to the customer, and I suppose that builds onto the point of innovation's more than just having an idea. It's about translating that idea into a commercial reality, or at least trying to. So why would companies innovate? Why would you develop a new product? Why would you do something a little bit different?
Stay relevant.
Yeah,
Stay ahead of the competition.
definitely. I think there's probably many answers to why companies would innovate. Yeah, often it's about growth, it's about strengthening your revenue streams, defending your market position if there's new market entrants coming in. Sometimes it can be internal innovation. It can be about reducing your costs and building your margins, streamlining your processes, making things a little bit easier. Again, a business that we've worked with in Wiltshire is they'd developed a new product, which is brilliant, cutting edge, ahead of the competition. But for us and what we helped them with, their real innovation was streamlining their current manufacturing processes so they didn't have to go and buy a new factory, which meant that they could produce their new product on their existing footprint and bring the product to market sooner with less capital expenditure. Could be about entering new markets. It could be with a product that you already have and you want to go into a different market. The staying relevant part kind of comes into a little bit of keeping customers interested. Apple bring out a new iPhone or something of that ilk every 6 months, partly because they've developed new technology, partly I think it's because they can then sell something to their existing customer base. Because if you've all got an iPhone 7, are we on to now? If you've all got an iPhone 7 or an iPhone X, then why would you buy it? Why would you buy a new one if it's not keeping you interested? And it could be, I guess, what is the classic, or what everyone thinks of as the classic innovation. You have a great idea and you think you can change the world. You see a different way of doing things, and you're evangelical and you want to drive this forward. So what does innovation look like? It can be a variety of different things. Some of this is a bit management speak, but could be new to firm. It could be you just doing something that you've not done before. Could be that you've spotted an opportunity, you've seen that your customer's doing this, and you think that you could, or one of your competition's doing something, and you could do something quite similar. It could be you've got one of your you're doing something absolutely brand new that no one else is doing, and we've got a case study about that later on. Could be that you're entering new markets. If you're selling your water bottles to the leisure market, and you think, actually, this might be a useful adaptation for the medical market, then there's a big innovation challenge, and essentially that is a new product to you, and it's potentially a new product to market. It doesn't have to be inventing something brand new. And as I've said, it could be just internal stuff. Sorting your internal innovation out. On the way up from Exeter this morning, I was listening to a podcast from Brompton, the people that make the folding bikes. And their big internal innovation has been having an internal inventor use cheap touchscreen tablets and Raspberry Pis in order to semi-automate their production line. All done comparatively cheaply and all done in-house. And importantly, it could be improving on something you already have. So I suppose the takeaway from it is it doesn't have to be brand new. It doesn't have to be something that no one's done before. In terms of the innovation process, this is a teeny bit of a dry slide. There's a very snappily titled European standard called CEN/TS-16555. My colleagues' eyes glaze over when I start talking about this. Essentially, Innovate to Succeed is about helping you with your innovation management systems. A very grand title for helping you build the capacity to move things from having an idea all the way to making it a commercial success. And where we tend to find that we help companies, or companies need a bit of help, are in not necessarily coming up with the ideas, it's around idea management, capturing the ideas and then deciding which ones you take forward. There's a lot of companies have a challenge around actually filtering, understanding what your customer's looking for, and understanding how you then move that forward onto the next stage. Companies are often okay around product development. Sometimes, and you'll all know examples, there can be a bit of an issue around actually designing something the customer wants in terms of the look and feel. Protection and exploitation is a big thing. The number of companies that we talk to that haven't considered their intellectual property, and I'm not just talking about patents, trademarks, design rights, are you fully protecting and are you fully understanding what it is that you have? And do you have, at this stage, appropriate processes to capture all this information in order to protect it? And then there's the big piece around introducing it to a market, developing what your go-to-market strategy is. What's the correct route to you? What's the correct route for you? And then how do you then accelerate sales and I guess not leave yourself spread a little bit thin? And it's all part of an assessment, improvement, life cycle. You need to keep learning and go, actually, you know what, that didn't work, so let's do things a little bit differently next time. And again, another little bit of dry innovation theory. A.T. Kearney came up with something called the Innovation House. And I tend to use this slide and don't dwell on it very much, other than to say there's a big piece around strategy, both business strategy and your innovation strategy. It's understanding your business, understanding what it is that you do, and understanding where you want to go, what your vision is, and how potential new products and services fit into that. There is a big, often with growing businesses, there is a challenge, and they reach a bit of a point at which actually turning down work or turning down a potential opportunity because it's not the right thing for them. And it can be quite scary, but otherwise will you just end up being spread too thin, and will you be too diverse? The other part is having a culture, having that ability to make sure that all the team is involved in the innovation process. And also, there's a huge amount of work that we do that's around enabling factors. So, do you have the internal processes? Do you have a digital marketing strategy? Do you understand all the nuts and bolts that go together in order to support the whole business? So often what we do is, a lot of it is strategic, but there's a lot of it around actually sorting out the nuts and bolts and the stuff on the ground to enable this, and particularly this, to happen. There's a company that we're just starting working with at the moment, and what we're doing is supporting them to innovate and sort out their supply chain, because they've got all the ideas, they just need the time to actually go and do it. They're too busy doing the day job in order to innovate. So, and again, this is a pretty common slide of mine, and I won't go through it in a huge amount of detail. There's a heap of different challenges if you're deciding to do something new. Money is a big one. We're lucky in that Innovate UK put out regular competitions and there is funding available, but it's not necessarily easy to get. So what are the other options? And there's a good bit around, is it investment? What's right for you going forwards? Idea filtering and selection, understanding your market. I'll keep stressing that that's important, understanding your customers. And I think part of this is around failing early, knowing when it's not working. Innovation doesn't always have to be a success. That's part of developing new products, but not pushing down a path and expending a lot of money and effort and then realizing it's not going anywhere. If you read the management books, they'll talk a lot about pivoting, which is essentially going down a certain direction, then going, actually, you know what, this isn't working, so let's go over this way instead. But doing that at the right point. In the oil and gas world, certainly, we spoke a lot about the valley of death, the point at which new products just stagnate and fail. Often, it's after initial product launch. Oil and gas, particularly when you're in the offshore exploration market, it's getting that first customer to use it. There's a lot of talk about, particularly in the high-risk industries, about the race to be second. No one wants to do it first. It's getting that first customer, building that market, sustaining yourself once you've got the product launched. How can you help yourself with that? It's kind of at this stage is involving your customers at this point and making sure that what you're developing it has buy-in at an early point. So, what are my keys to success? Multiple, really. I'm going to keep banging on about strategy. It's understanding what your USP is, understanding what it is that you do, what you want to be good at, what you want your business to be. If you're developing a new widget, do you want to be a manufacturing company or do you want to be an innovation company? It's fine, both options are equally valid, but don't necessarily feel railroaded down a particular route because you have to make it yourself. There's a variety of different options, and a good amount of what we do is be a critical friend to clients and say, look, is this what you want to do? Is this what you want to be good at? Understanding your customer, as I think I've probably banged on a lot about. Putting yourself in your customer's shoes and building something that a customer wants and knowing how to appeal to them. Understanding your business, understanding what's right for you, what's right for your brand, what's right for your vision. Having the resources to support it, making sure that you have what you need, and if you don't have it, then finding partners that can help you. Try and do it well rather than ignore doing it at all. And finally, properly understanding what the business model is for any new product. I'm not necessarily talking about a 5-year business plan. I'm talking about how making sure that everything stacks up as you go forward and you know how you're doing it in order to scale. So I thought it would be interesting to run through a few different innovative products and I guess get your thoughts. These are just my views on what works and what doesn't. I think we kind of have to talk about Apple, and I'll apologize. A lot of mine are quite tech focused, but that's just simply the world that I've been in. Apple, constantly innovating, constantly developing new technologies, seem to be constantly getting new customers. And there's a big following. It's debatable about, they certainly have the technology aspects to it, but there's certainly a lot of brand and design in there as well. So it really depends on what is on the different companies. Uber, I think, is an interesting example because our Uber a taxi company in London. There's a bit of discussion about that going on at the moment. But really, they're just a technology company. Uber didn't invent taxis. Uber invented a different business model for the taxi industry. So it's a really interesting example, and it's kind of interesting to see how things are changing in the taxi market because of it, or if they are. Some maybe less successful ones, or that's debatable. Does anyone know what this is? Google Glass. Has anyone ever used it? Yeah, I'm a little bit on the fence as to whether this is a product or a concept that just was launched a bit too early and it hasn't had its time yet. It's one of these things, and it's easy for companies like Google, because Google allegedly, and I'm not sure if this is still the case, certainly used to give their guys, I think it was a day a week, to work on something that wasn't necessarily directly related to their product or to their job. Not many companies have the luxury of being able to do that, but they generate some pretty interesting and different ideas. But I think the interesting part of it is, if anyone's on Gmail, or there's a labs program, which means that people can test out new ideas and they test them out on you guys, customers. It's dead easy with software products because you can do it and you can switch, but I'll come on to something called minimal viable product a little bit earlier, is launching something, trying it out with your customers, seeing if it works, testing the market, as opposed to committing to a full-scale development. And a little bit of a love-hate relationship of mine. Has anyone still got a BlackBerry before I crack on with this part of the discussion? I'll hold my hands up and say, I used to love my BlackBerry. It was awesome. I could sit on the train typing out emails, way more productive than I am on any other smartphones at the moment. But where did Research in Motion, BlackBerry's sort of owner company, fall down? Frankly, a lot of people think it's because they forgot their core market. What BlackBerry did really well was develop and market very, very good business phones. They were rock solid, they lasted for ages, battery used to go days without needing charged, and importantly, it was very secure and very light on data. I think arguably they struggled a little bit when they moved into the consumer market. Arguably, I think they took the eye off the ball and they forgot who they were. But this is their latest. I think it's their latest one, and I kind of have half an eye on it, mainly because I like the teeny little keys. But it'll be interesting to see where they go forward and seeing if they can reclaim their original market. And finally, more of a service-led innovation. When I was living up in Aberdeen, and I don't know if any of them arrived down here, House of Fraser, who have had a pretty woeful time recently, one of their innovation avenues was and I want to call it a concept store, but I can't remember if that's what it was called. essentially, you would go in, and it was essentially a room about this sort of size with a load of tablets on it. You could go in, you could order stuff, you could pick it up, you could, if you wanted something, you could return something, but they didn't actually have anything in the shop. It kind of worked quite well. I lived in the centre of town. It was brilliant. I could order something in, try it on. If I didn't like it, I didn't have to faff around taking it back to the post. My feeling is that it died a death just because they were trying to fill a need, the market that just wasn't there in the market. It'll be interesting. I think the whole retail sector is struggling with its innovation, but you see companies like John Lewis having quite a clear and strong brand, and maybe that's the future because they're by far one of the few that are really having issues. So I guess moving on to a little bit of what support's available. Sinclair Brown, my colleague, and I work on something called Innovate Succeed. We're an innovation coaching program. It's fully funded, so free to the clients that we work with. And really, what we're here to do is, grandly, it's to help you gain a better understanding of your innovation management processes. In reality, it's to help you think through the process of developing new products and services, looking for new finance, identifying and exploring market opportunities, looking at some of your external processes, but also helping you build your capability to do things that aren't necessarily your core business, but you know you need to be good at. We're for SMEs, so this is the bit that usually gets a laugh. You've got to be under 50 million euros turnover, and have less than 250 staff, which covers quite a swathe. But you have to be looking to develop new products and services. You have to be looking to do something different. You might have an existing product that you've just launched and are still in the early stages of commercialization. Or you might be, as a business I spoke to only on Tuesday, they're currently a net importer. They import and then they sell to other people. But what they're trying to do is they've realized that there is a problem with their existing business model, so they want to start developing their new processes. So innovation's a brand new journey for them. So essentially what we do with you, it's a lot of words on the slide. It comes into two halves. The first bit is working with your senior team to take a step back and think about what your strategy is and how innovation and new products and services and how your business model relates to that, and then looking for what help is around. That could be support that we give. Our rough modules are things like sales and marketing, commercial strategy, accessing new markets, understanding your markets, how to apply for a grant, what Innovate UK are looking for, what's right for you. You may want to get investor ready. You may actually be looking for money, or you may be looking for money at some point down the line, but you just need to know how to build yourself. Intellectual property is a massive area, and the Intellectual Property Office currently funds, mostly, it's about 88% funded by the IPO, funds a small number of IP audits. So if you want the best part of £3,000 to have an IP professional and an IP lawyer look at your intellectual property portfolio and help you prepare a strategy, then come and speak to us. It could be about internal processes and sorting out your internal processes in order to support either new products or refining your existing products. There's a lot of support out there, so I think come and talk to us if you're looking for help. And I think one of the things that I think all business support people are trying to do at the moment is encouraging businesses to come and ask for help, and we can point you in the right direction because there's a lot there, and sometimes it's the unknown unknowns. And for some reason I have that slide twice, but that's okay. So what sort of tools do we use? And I'm conscious of time, so I'll move through these quite quickly. The key ones that we use are the business model canvas. You'll all have written business plans. This is a very simple way of putting down the key bits of your business model. Who are your customers? And understanding how they're segmented and which customers you have. Understanding how you talk to your customers, how you reach them through which channels. What's the relationship do you have? Are you a trusted friend, or are you a stack 'em high, sell 'em cheap retailer that they have no particular relationship? It's quite interesting in the bike industry at the moment. I'm a keen cyclist. There's a lot of brands building that sort of very close niche customer relationship with their customers. A lot through social media, but is that right for your business, or do customers really care who they buy from? Internally, key things are, what is it that you need to be good at, and what do you need to have in order to achieve this? Is it money? Do you want to be a manufacturing company? Do you want to make this yourself? Is that really what you want to do? If not, then get someone else to do it. How can you? It's building this all so it stacks up. And along the bottom of it is actually what does the cost structure, what do your revenue streams look like, and does it all stack up? It's a brilliant tool to use as management teams because you can get a whole heap of post-it notes out, stick it up on the wall, and work through it and work through, this is what we look like now, and this is what we're going to look like in a year's time. I know a company that has essentially a big pad of these on flip chart paper, and every time they think about a new product idea, they mark it up and work out how it stacks up. And I think part of my learning from that is building it into your strategy. It's not just a new product idea. The counterpart to the value proposition canvas is the business model canvas is the value proposition canvas. Two parts. Right-hand side is the customer. Left-hand side is you. Where you see products really dying or really failing is they think about this thing first. They think about what their product is, what it does, and then fit it to what the customer's actually trying to do. It's a big thing around customer job, and there's a brilliant video that I can send out later, but I think we probably won't have time necessarily to play just now. The apocryphal story is milkshake company or fast food company was trying to improve their milkshakes. They asked customers if they wanted it more strawberry or if they wanted chocolate chips in it. Made zero difference to the sales. But by asking the customer, actually, what were they trying to achieve? What was the problem the customer had? It was they were in the car, they needed something to eat, they had a long drive to work, and it fitted in the cup holder. So their competition wasn't Burger King or McDonald's. Their competition was croissants and donuts and fruit, because that's how the customer viewed the job that the product was trying to do. Again, won't play the customer job video. And I guess the final tool that I would flag up is, this is one of a number of them, but it is a simple way. Draw a big wagon wheel, divide it into 8 spokes or more spokes, and work out where your business is going to be in a year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time, and relate that back to the business model canvas and work out how it all stacks up. It's about thinking through, it's about not just developing something, it's about thinking through the longer term journey. Again, wanting to give our case study a little bit of time. I won't play this, but have any of you read The Lean Startup? Lean Startup talks a lot about minimum viable product. It's about making something that works and then building on it. See all these different apps that you get on your phone that have new features added to them? That's the minimum viable product. It's a bit more difficult if you're selling a table, but perhaps if you want to design a range of furniture, design a chair first and see if it works, test the market, and then keep moving on from there. So I'll hand over to Kevin. Kevin is one of our Innovate to Succeed clients, and is just going to give a few minutes on what his journey is and really what part innovation plays and some of the challenges.
Thanks, David. Good morning, everyone. Kev Chappell. I know a couple of you in the room. Worked with a couple of you in the room. Yeah, okay. I had a bit of a problem, besides the obvious ones. One of them was I was supposed to be a maths teacher. And I was paying my way through the last ebbs of the college, and it's a case of, okay, I need some money. So what can I do? Oh, as a young man, I invented a machine that fixed plastic panels for a damaged motorbike I bought. Thought no more of it at the time. This was in the 80s. So what I did, I basically got that old tech, rebuilt it, cost me about £12. You know, it was a huge investment, but it worked. It welds plastic. Plastic's a dirty word almost at the moment, but so what I thought was, okay, I'll buy some broken bits from scrap yards and I'll sell them on eBay. Well, I did. People seem to like it. It was things like this. This is a little bit of plastic. It's actually a bracket off a £700 Volkswagen headlamp. Well, that headlamp without this bracket is worthless. You can't disassemble it, you can't change anything, it goes in the skip. So people said, well, how are you doing this? This isn't possible. We don't know how you're doing this. So very quickly and very luckily, I bumped into a couple of people who said, stop doing this. Really, you need to stop doing this. This is a lot bigger than a bit of pin money. So, okay, time for advice. So just luckily on the Eventbrite, I had no concept of Innovate to Succeed, Business West or anything like that. On Eventbrite popped up, this might be of interest to you, innovation. It's a talk in Wootton Bassett. So I thought, well, I'll sign up for that, you know. I went along and I got introduced to the people there. Very intensive little course. It was really interesting, and it was sort of saying, you know, you're on the right lines-ish, but you've forgotten all this. So I was introduced to Sinclair, and Sinclair said, you know, this might be of interest to you. This, and we talked about the business model canvas, and the other one, I've forgotten. Value proposition, filled all those in, and I thought, okay, you know, this is quite good here, but there's an awful lot to learn. So when offered to join the program, I just jumped at the chance because, like I said, I was supposed to be a maths teacher. So all this was completely alien. What was I going to do? Was I going to bring a minimum viable product? What was my IP like? Yeah, right, okay. So I needed to take advice, and it made sense to take advice from a government-funded organisation that knew what they were talking about, rather than talking just, you know, Fred down the pub, which is the typical way that we do it. So, I took my idea to Thatcham. People heard of Thatcham? Thatcham Research? It's basically the Mr. Del Monte of the insurance world. If Thatcham like what you're doing, you're on. And the guy turns around and first of all he said, is this real? You've actually done this? I said, yeah, I'm getting this a lot, you know, I think I'm making this up. So, and he said, this is a £30 million opportunity, guys. This is seriously disruptive. What's disruptive? You know, so we had to start again. And through Sinclair and the team, I spoke to everybody that I could, and we took as much advice as possible. We've gone from, I say we, because originally it was just me, but now there's 6 of us on the team. And we're just about to go through we're up, is it the expert level now? That's a bit grandiose because we're not. We're in with the experts. And yeah, Pinweld, as it's now known, the Pinweld product, you'll be able to buy a Pinweld item, or a bit like the old Intel advert, you'll have a Pinweld inside. And yeah, we're just about to go through the IP audit to find out how we can best turn this into something big and protect it and get it out there. I've got, in the last couple of days, I've had people from Texas, people from Australia saying, could you pop over? They have no idea. So this is a sort of level we've got to. And all I wanted to do was pay some bills for a college course to be a maths teacher. So that sort of sums it up for me, really. Thank you.
Fantastic. And I suppose one more slide, because I'm keeping an eye on time. So what's next for you? I guess this comes from a blog post I wrote ages ago, which is quite scary. I guess what would be the tips? First would be come up with ideas. Ideas are good, but make sure that you have a rigorous process for selection. It doesn't have to be grand, but it just needs to be think about it. Build up your business model, understand how everything looks. If you employ people, whose job is innovation in your company? I mean, really, it could be anyone. It could be the receptionist who comes up with a brilliant idea about how you can streamline things. It's making that culture open so that people can generate new ideas and collaborate on stuff. But always consider what the eventual business model will be. Don't just develop a product without any thought about how you're going to commercialize this. Think about the customer and test it with them before you start. Can be a little tricky if it's particularly sensitive IP, but then protect it. And finally, it's okay to fail. You don't have to be. It's okay to try something. I guess a little bit like Google Glass. Try it. Say, you know what? Maybe not right now, but you've learned something, and even an unsuccessful R&D project is still a success because you know something you didn't know before. If we're running short of time or running ad stuff, I would play this because the Amazon Dash button is brilliant. Some people love it, some people hate it. How many people have heard of it? For those of you that haven't, it's a little button. Say that you want Ariel washing tablets. You stick it on your washing machine, you connect it to the internet, you press it. Next day, assuming you're an Amazon Prime customer, a box of Ariel tablets arrives on your doorstep. I can't work out if it's utter genius or just an absolute barmy product. I definitely have one for electric toothbrush heads because I'm always running out of those. So yeah, have a look for it because it's interesting, but when you have a look at it, consider what the value proposition is for the customer and what their business model actually looks like. So I guess finally, any questions? Those are my details if anyone wants to talk further or ask questions now. Grab Mio Sinclair at the end.